The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we are webcasting to you live from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. We are in Tower 1 of the Warner Center. This is the new home for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. It's their headquarters here, and it's also the new home for autism-live headquarters. We're on the 18th floor coming to you, as I said, live. We're going to be with you for the next 2 hours live. It's a very exciting show. We've been away from you for about a week now. Thrilled to be back. Kelby is back. Can I just pause for a second and say how thrilled I am that Kelby is back? How badly I need Kelby has been revealed every day since he's been gone. But thrilled to be here with you guys again live. My goodness, we've come back with a show that's designed to knock your socks off. In this first hour, we have Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh here with us live for Ask Dr. Doreen. We have a bunch of questions that you guys have written in. Excited to get to those. And then in our second hour during Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy Alspaugh Jackson will be joining me along with our very special guest, Byron Katie. If this is a new name to you, I just want to jump for joy and say I'm so glad you're here with us today, because this is an amazing woman. This is just one of her books, Loving What Is. I put on Facebook yesterday, if you need something to change and you don't know what, if you're feeling sad, depressed, alone, frustrated, angry, resentful, or just plain stuck, you've come to the right place today, because this is an amazing woman who does something called the work. And I personally have found that in terms of anger, it is better than anything else that there is at helping you to get to a different place. Excited to be talking with Katie later on in the show. And we've already gotten some questions from you guys, and we'll be taking more for both Dr. Granpeesheh and for Byron Katie later on in the show. All right. I want to remind you that the entire show that we do is meant to be interactive. We want you to participate with us. We want to hear from you. We want to know what's going on with you and what would be meaningful for you today and every day. Kelby's going to show you some of the different ways that you can get in touch with us, while I remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. There's a lot to do on that page. Don't be confused, though. I do want to remind you to sign up for our email list so that you can get insider information about what's coming up. Those of you who are on that list got a newsletter this morning, and you got a viewer guide letting you know what else is going to be on this week, because we have a great week planned for you. A short one, but a great week planned for you. But also I want to remind you that when you're on that home page, if you click on the triangle that's on the computer, you can be watching the live show or the most recently recorded live show. If you click on the playlist that's up in the upper left-hand corner of that screen, you can watch the most recent 100 shows right there. All of that is completely free to you. If you want to write in and talk to us in real time or to leave us a message, all you simply have to do is put your cursor in the white box that is just to the side of that computer screen. You hit enter, and that is it. There is no login, no username, no password. There's no credit card information. It's totally free, instant gratification, totally anonymous. We do like it if you reference specifically, if you are writing it about what did she say about this or what did he say, make sure you're specific. Tell us who the he is, because I don't know which hour you watched, right? And let us know where you are in the world so that we can give you the best possible information on resources available to you, close to you. All right, it's time, my friends, for Ask Dr. Doreen.
Doreen Granpeesheh Pichet is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Graham-Pichet.
Dr. Graham-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Ask Dr. Doreen. Welcome, Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet.
Good morning.
So thrilled to be here with you
Thank
this
you.
morning. And we're going to be taking some viewer questions almost immediately, but we want to remind you, if you've never watched the show, first of all, Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet is a true expert in the field of autism. She has had such a tremendous impact on this field over multiple decades and continues to blaze a trail. She's not only an expert, but she's a visionary in this field. And we thank you for all your work and for making the time to do this.
It's always a pleasure.
Well, it's totally our pleasure, as evidenced by all the questions that we get.
Keep coming in. That's great.
That keep coming in. And the thank yous that we get for people who love to hear your voice on these subjects. We do like to remind everybody at the start of the show that no expert could give individual specific advice in this format. So we do have limitations. It would be a disservice to members of the autism community to say that anyone could give advice in this format. But because Dr. Graham-Pichet is so knowledgeable, she gives us more information about the topics so we can make new decisions, ask new questions, and make progress.
That's right. We'll be very cautious. I would hate to misguide someone just because I don't know enough about their child.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So having said that, we're thrilled that she's
do our
here.
best.
Yeah, well, you know, and it's so enlightening always.
Well,
I learned
thank
so
you. That's
much
great.
in this hour, and I really honestly believe that when we get that knowledge, it fosters hope. And hope is a very important thing.
That's
As we
true.
say here on the show, hope is our favorite four-letter word.
Well, and I love this show. For me, it reminds me of the things that are still important to parents and concerning to parents, and it always gives me a lot of ideas about what we still need to do.
Because I will say this, as parents, we are an interesting group of people.
Yeah.
and
very
see, interesting
strong
in the quotations. I didn't know coming into this community, but one of the first people welcomed me to the community. He said, "Welcome to the club that you never thought you wanted to belong to, but once you get here, you see that it's filled with really wonderful people."
Really wonderful.
But
and
we have
very
our own bag of
strong.
hammers.
Well, I don't know. I think it's an incredibly unique group of people. I don't know another group this strong. You know, these are most of the people in this group of parents are just incredibly resilient and patient and strong and have. They're the type of people that just never take no for an answer, and I love that.
There is
I
that.
love that.
And we're sometimes a little goofy.
Yeah.
Which I also
You have
love.
to be.
I love that we have a sense of humor when on our good days. Okay, so I want to jump into some questions right here. The first one uses an anagram that I don't understand, but they work at a place that's for special ed students in high school in a center-based program. Recently, our school district dropped ASD classrooms and integrated high school-aged ASD kids without prior warning into the regular classrooms and cafeteria settings. They had been in a sheltered ASD environment prior. Even the staff did not know they were coming to our classrooms, and we got no support. Several are violent at times, and they said suggestions. This is fascinating to me.
Wow.
Because I will be honest with you that I'm a big fan of inclusion, but I'm a big fan of inclusion when it's done right.
Absolutely. I mean, I really have no suggestions. It's a pretty shocking situation, to be honest with you. And sooner or later, what's going to happen is someone's going to get hurt, and then something is going to happen. Like, you have to understand that this is the worst possible way of doing inclusion is just, pulling the barriers and saying, hey, everybody deal with each other. So it's kind of like the typically developing students and staff who have absolutely no training will be completely overwhelmed and shocked and possibly hurt. And the kids obviously are, this is going to be drastically I guess, damaging in some ways for them, because they are now no longer sheltered or protected, and they are now mixed in with not only other high school students who might be less cautious, less understanding, less empathetic, less knowledgeable about what ASD is, but also to environments. They're now exposed to environments that are louder, more chaotic, faster paced, very disturbing. So taking a group of ASD high schoolers and just merging them with typical kids is just going to be a disaster in a lot of ways, because the ASD kids will be provoked to aggress, because most of the time individuals with ASD, of course, will be aggressive or have tantrums or have any kind of challenging behavior simply because they are frustrated, they are irritated by the sensory input. It's not that they're being aggressive, they just can't handle what's coming at them. And so this is a pretty bad situation, and my fear is that someone will get violent because, for instance, an ASD individual might just, instead of being able to say, no, I don't want that, they might hit or aggress. And so this is a pretty difficult situation, and I'm worried for the school.
Yeah.
You know, all I can suggest is that you, as a staff member, should really take this to the principal, I guess, and say, hey, we need some training. We can certainly help you there. I mean, Institute for Behavioral Training has a lot of training that's available for schools, particularly. You will need some what's called ABM, Assaultive Behavior Management training, which teaches you techniques to protect yourself and others from aggressive behavior. And I would say all of the students, the typically developing students, should need to be educated on what autism is and the sensory issues that these other children might be having, and just kind of give them some more knowledge so that they're able to develop more understanding of what's going on.
And I would encourage you to talk to the parents that are of these students as well and get them involved. When I saw this, I thought, because I'm in a Thanksgiving mindset, I was thinking, you know, we wouldn't do this if we were having guests for Thanksgiving. Just have them arrive with no luggage and no plan for where we were going to have them sleep and no food accounted for. We wouldn't do that with Thanksgiving guests.
It's true.
Why would we do that with kids on the autism spectrum and not prepare anyone?
At all. Or the environment. I mean, if you think about it, there's safety issues here for the kids with ASD. I mean, this is just a crazy plan. I don't know where this is. You should let us know where you are, perhaps, and if we have a site near you, we'd be happy to come out and provide training.
Okay. Very, very disturbing. I think it shows what the level and the depth of ignorance is sometimes in the education system, that somebody probably went, oh, well, we know that there is a law right now that is going to the Supreme Court in Georgia about the practices of separating individuals who are on the autism spectrum, and that it's being tried in a different way, not looking at IDEA, but looking at the Americans with Disabilities Act. And so I don't know whether this is a reaction to that, and I'm going, oh, well, we're not going to do that. But you still have to ramp up and be prepared to do it right.
Right. I also don't know what these initials stand for, Shannon, and as I'm rereading this a second time, it occurs to me that these are special ed students, actually, who are, the ASD kids are being integrated with a group of kids who are special ed.
Oh, so there's even more to that.
Yeah, so this could be even more chaotic, because the other special ed kids, see, it says I work with MOCI special ed
exactly
students.
What you see now.
So the other kids could also have their own issues, and this is now going to cause even more confusion and chaos. So I think it's very important to to let everyone in charge sort of be aware of the fact that more training is necessary.
Absolutely, training is the topic of the hour. All right, I'm going to move on to another question, and then we're going to take a short break. My 2-year-old is being evaluated for Asperger's. He only says 10 words, no sentences. He is fixating on the way his toys are arranged, otherwise throw the toys in a fit. And socially, he doesn't exactly know how to be gentle. But from what I can tell, he will join in with other kids, but more as an observer than a participant. And again, this is a 2-year-old. How do I help him? I haven't given you your pen and your paper. How
Thanks,
rude
that's
of me.
okay.
How do I help him in these areas at home and at daycare? How can I help him at home with his language skills? He gets very frustrated when he can't verbalize what he wants or needs. He understands what myself and his dad ask him and responds via action. And they also sent an email where we can get in touch with them. And thank
Okay.
you for doing that. That's always an option, by the way, that when you send information and you can give your email, I will not share that when I post a question online.
Right. So the psychologist in me says that you may be assuming that the issues that your child is exhibiting are not that severe. And you may be thinking this is something mild and will possibly, with a little bit of intervention from me as the parent, will pass and my child will just kick in and start learning typically. I caution you about thinking that way because it is always better to be more intrusive, I suppose, and involved and do more intervention rather than less, especially at this age, because you are just entering this kind of window of opportunity, and I would hate for you to waste it by doing too little, because you can't get this age back. Now, if your child only says 10 words, no sentences, he's fixated on the way his toys are arranged. In other words, he insists on them being arranged a certain way. Otherwise, he'll throw the toys and have a fit. And he doesn't exactly know how to be gentle, which means he'll kind of grab things. And he's not really, although he does observe maybe the other kids, but he's not really able to see things from their perspective or understand that they might get hurt. If those things are happening and his language has not developed, he's getting frustrated when he can't verbalize and all those types of things, you are describing the early signs of autism. Let's just be very clear. I have to tell you that nobody would be evaluating your child right now for Asperger's. Asperger's doesn't exist anymore as a diagnosis. It is now a part of the ASD spectrum. So they would be evaluating your child for autism spectrum disorder, and they will determine what level of support your child needs. Someone could certainly diagnose your child as having ASD Asperger's type, which means they will get very, very little support. Again, my caution to you is it would be very unusual and rare to have a 2-year-old with these symptoms diagnosed with Asperger's type. These are the early symptoms of ASD, the typical early symptoms of ASD. And what happens is that if you don't give a massive amount of intervention right off the bat, things get worse. The child gets more frustrated because the other kids are developing more language. Life generally speeds up after age 2 and becomes more chaotic, and kids are running around, and you have to pay attention to much more social and abstract stuff in your world. And when you're 2, it's more concrete. When you're 3, 4, things become pretty abstract, and you have to start reading other people's facial expressions, body language, paying attention to them while knowing what, how to pay attention to other things that are more important. There's a lot going on at 3. So my recommendation is that you find immediately a psychologist or a developmental pediatrician or someone who is able to do a diagnostic workup right away. Get your diagnosis in place. That would be your first step, and you should do that this month, like immediately. The second thing would be to then take that to your insurance company, and hopefully you're in a state where you will get some form of funding, and get funding. If you don't have insurance, in most states right now there is a Medicaid help for this, so you will want to do that, get your funding in place, and then you will need to find an ABA center, so someone who's a board certified behavior analyst doing ABA or applied behavior analysis. And then that's where you will get your intensive ABA. And for a 2-year-old, 2 to 3 is the age where we do intensive, what's called EIBI, or early intensive behavioral intervention, which means your child would be scheduled for anywhere between 26 and 40 hours a week of one-to-one therapy. I will repeat that, 26 to 40 hours a week. That means 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Or if you're going to do it 7 days a week, which is even better, then you could do fewer hours. But 5 to 6 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I cannot stress enough how important it is that you do those hours, because you will hear, even from ABA providers who are newer or coerced, and you will hear from your physician, pediatrician, or whoever you see for the diagnosis, perhaps. You will hear from a lot of people in the world that doing 10 hours a week is enough. It is not going to be necessarily enough. Very, 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 very few children actually do what they're capable of with 10 hours a week. So you need to increase the hours. You need to do a massive number of hours. This is the most important advice I can give you, especially in the first 2 years. And so this is critical, and you need to get this rolling. If you are close to a card site, then we'll take care of you. And you just need to get on to our 1-800 number and call in and do all of our stuff, which, we do a pretty extensive intake evaluation process. So you'd have to get that started. But I really, and since your child is 2, you'd get started with card immediately, by the way, because 2-year-olds don't have school, so we can work with them in the mornings. And we take our kids immediately to our centers and start them. So I really strongly encourage you, if your child is high functioning and has just language, social, and a few behaviors, this is like really where you need to push as hard as you can, because this is the type of child who still has all of the possibilities for a full recovery. So please, please make sure that you get your intensive therapy.
Okay, so just to recap, I know as a parent that we are conditioned to want to go into a doctor's office and not get a diagnosis or get the least diagnosis.
Right.
That's a rational thing that we've been brought up to think.
Of course.
I know when I walked into the doctor's office when my child was being diagnosed that I was hoping to get, not autism was my number one thing. PDD-NOS was my second thing that I was like, because that, was a lesser form, not as severe, or an Asperger, but not the autism. In fact, the reality is that if you get the autism diagnosis, you're more likely to get the therapy that would be needed to help your child.
Right.
So let go of wishing for some lesser diagnosis.
Which you can't even get anymore.
Right.
I mean, if someone diagnoses your child Asperger's, then they're behind and they shouldn't be diagnosing.
Right.
Because that changed 2 years ago. So we're talking about you will get an ASD diagnosis, and the person hopefully making recommendations will make recommendations that are based on the level of support your child really needs.
And then it's that thing of we want to get bogged down in the diagnosis. But what we want to get bogged down in is actually making sure that we get the help on board.
That's right.
So you got to get on a list to get good quality ABA, and then you got to start digging your heels in to get the fight to make sure that you've got what's in the window, which you heard very distinctly from Dr. Grampiche, 26 to 40 hours. And, I would push it more towards the 40 than the 26.
I would as well, and I'm only saying the 26 because if the child's 2,
yes,
you will gradually increase to 40 hours. I mean, let me just tell you, just do this, please. Like, don't waste this time. There's so many parents who come to me and they're crying and upset because someone else told them to do less and now they're regretting it. You can't get that time back. And there's no harm. This is such a luxury. That you will get, and there's no fear involved with getting this diagnosis. Don't worry, just let it be, because it'll open up doors to funding for you. And it's so important to get the right help right now. It's like getting intensive tutoring. Your child will do better in everything. They'll be incredibly ahead of other kids, if it's too much, which it really is never too much. There's so much stuff to be taught.
And you will never regret that.
You'll
you
never,
will
ever
never
regret
that.
it.
But if you don't do this now, I guarantee you will come back later and go, why did I not do that? Because I listened to that doctor, and I listened to my mother-in-law, and I listened to my friend Rebecca, who said that seems like a lot, right? You just heard it from the expert in autism. You need to get on that stick.
Yeah, and you know what? Go on Amazon and order Recovered Journeys Through Autism and Back, which is a film I made a few years ago. And all four of those parents in this film were told not to do ABA, or it's too much to put their child in special ed and so on and so forth. And if you watch that, and I think even on the second DVD that goes with it, there's a section that one of the parents talks about what would have happened if I had listened to all these other very fancy professionals at a very well-known university who told me not to do anything about it because my child will never be better.
Yeah.
You know, so it's really important that you just do as much as you can right now.
You've got an opportunity, and you just had the message come. Take advantage of it. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back with more questions, so stick with us.
It's every parent's desire for their child to have a great start in life. Yet there is a condition affecting more children's lives than pediatric cancer, diabetes, and AIDS combined. Autism strikes 1 in every 150 children.
Today, 1 in 110 kids in the U.S. will be diagnosed with autism. That is a huge jump from 30 years ago when it was 1 in 30,000.
Startling new report finds the number of children with autism is skyrocketing. The Centers for Disease Control estimates 1 in 68 children has a form of autism. Now that's a 30% increase in just 2 years.
Well, a lot of the children and all the accomplishments over the last 20 years, I'm thrilled.
I think what kept me was the feeling that, you know, I would have a parent come to my office late at night at UCLA and just fall apart. And this is a long time ago, and there were much less back then in terms of services and knowledge and so on. And I would just sit with the family and the parents and walk them through and try to take away some of their fears, you know. And at that point I realized, I think the thing that's actually most important to me is that process. I mean, thank God that I've been very, very lucky and blessed to have so many incredible clinicians join me along the way and just develop CARD in such an amazing, magnificent way. That I could, you know, for me it was more really about how can I help the families? What can I do for the moms, the dads, you know? It is just, and I feel like, you know, there's no way I would ever really know because I haven't had my own child go through this, but I've experienced it with people a lot of times.
Hi, this is Megan. I'm in first grade all by myself. My teachers are so fabulous. I like to read books. I like to go to my friends' birthday parties. I like to invite my friends to my birthday parties. I once had a sleepover with a friend. I like to have play dates with my friend. I'm the best reader in my class. I like to go to the library. I like to read different series of books. And here's how I learned to do all these things. By my card friends and Dr. Grandpichet. Thank you, card friends and Dr. Grandpichet.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. We're here with Dr. Doreen Grandpichet, and she's answering your questions live, and it's an amazing thing. I do want to remind you that in the next hour for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy Alspot Jackson will be here, and our special guest today is none other than Byron Katie. Amazing woman, author of Loving What Is, which was absolutely life-changing and defining for me as an autism parent, by the way, this is not written for autism parents, but I think there's a lot to be learned for autism parents because we have a lot of stressful things to deal with. And Katie is amazing. She does something called the work, and it sounds like heavy lifting. It's not.
It's not, and it's so simple. And I have to say, like, she also, her work had a very significant influence on my life about, let's see, 7 years ago. And I actually went to one of her events. Actually, I've been to several of her events, but one event, my dear friend Stan Kurtz, who works with her, got me on stage with her. She actually did the work for me, with me.
Oh, I would have paid money. Is there videotape
Absolutely.
of this? I want to see this.
But the main thing for me was that it's so simple, the work. Doing the work is such a simple process that you think to yourself, how is this going to change? It's unbelievable. It changes your perspective. That's what Byron Katie's work is all about, is your perspective about what is.
Yeah.
And how we have such a skewed perspective about what's in our lives that we tend to get depressed about it. And if you really change your perspective, it changes your whole life.
Absolutely.
And it's very powerful stuff for anyone who's struggling with anything, I think.
Absolutely.
It's amazing stuff.
I should say that the subtitle of this book is 4 Questions That Can Change Your Life.
Exactly.
And that's really the long and the
work.
short of it. That's the work. And so we're going to be doing that with her in the next hour and with Nancy Alspaugh Jackson. We're thrilled to have an opportunity to welcome her here. And hope that you guys will enjoy it as well. But right now, we're here with Dr. Grant Pichet, and she's answering your questions specifically about autism, and that's a wonderful thing, too.
Yes.
So we're going to get with this next question. Hi, Shannon and Dr. Doreen. I need help with my 5.6-year-old son. He won't sleep in his bed at night. His bed is in my room because there's only one bedroom in my apartment. He falls asleep in his bed, but every night climbs into mine. I take him back and stay a few minutes with him in his bed because he says he's scared. If I leave his bed before he's fallen asleep, he'll start saying, "Can I come to your bed?" and whining. There's a little nightlight in the room, but he's still scared. He'll start saying things like, "What's over there?" Any shadow in the room, he'll ask, "What is that?" and sounds and looks really scared. I really feel very bad for him since he's little. I know he's afraid of the dark. That's why I have a nightlight in the room. Does not matter how many times at night I take him to his bed, he still comes back. And in the morning, we're both really tired. Please help me, and thank you so much.
Yeah, that's a pretty tough situation. So just a very quick solution right now is, let's not make this the biggest battle in our lives, because you have other battles to fight probably. And, you know, one of the most important things, I think, is for you and for him to get sleep. So what I would recommend is, if at all possible, rearrange your room. And since it is one room that you're both sleeping in, rearrange the room so that his bed is next to yours, like touching yours, in fact, so that he is sleeping in his bed and you're sleeping in your bed, but you could reach out if you needed to and touch him, and he could do the same. Why don't you start with that, and then let him sleep, let you sleep, catch up on sleep. And I honestly don't know that it would benefit you to do much more past that until you're able to get a place that actually allows you to have some separation. There are no other options right now. You don't have another room. If if it was possible to have him eventually sleep in the living room, I'm not sure if you feel comfortable with that. If you do, then what you do is you gradually will move his bed away from yours tiny amounts over the course of a year, so that he doesn't really feel the difference very much, and then he'll be comfortable. But for now, I feel like this is not necessarily shouldn't be the biggest stressor. You have other things to worry about right now, and we can sometimes forgive these things. As long as he's in his own bed, sleeping right next to you, it wouldn't be much of a difference if he's in his own bed on the other side of your room. You still have the same level issues. Sometimes with night lights, kids see more shadows than without. That is something that you might want to think about as well. In other words, either increase the illumination or decrease it completely. And then the other thing is, don't engage when he's asking you questions and so on. Just try to reduce the answering of that sort of thing. He is, after all, going to be very close to you. Perhaps try to teach him to perhaps do some soothing things like have music in the background. I know it's kind of uncomfortable, but the best sleep that I have is when I have my Bose headphones on because I don't hear anything else, and they're amazing. Another thing I've heard from parents is very helpful, I do this as well, is to have noise canceling, white noise in the background. So a lot of air filter machines or fans will produce that kind of white noise so that he doesn't hear background things. You might want to see if he's willing to have what are they called?
It's
things
like a face
on
mask.
the eye mask
Yeah.
things on. Some people sleep. My daughter, for instance, started doing that herself, and she can't sleep without it now.
Wow.
So and some people, by the way, are very reactive to light. So it might be important to test and see if he does better if it's dark versus completely light. And then the other thing is, I sleep much better if I take Benadryl, which is pretty harmless. And he's 5.5, so 25 milligrams, just one Benadryl, is like what you have if you have allergic reaction to stuff, and or melatonin. Like if he's like having a rough time sleeping anyway, it sounds like the nighttime has become an anxious time for him. So you'll have to kind of work on not just having him right next to you, but you'll have to work on making it a more pleasant time. So those are some of the things you could think about.
Okay, wonderful. There's another
question. Bedtime, yeah.
Another bedtime question. I put them next to each other, but they are different children. My 5-year-old seems to have a lot of energy at bedtime, which makes it difficult to put him to bed. Any suggestions? And he has high-functioning autism.
And I would, with this child, I would really consider talking to the pediatrician and seeing if it's okay for you to add either Benadryl, which is diphenhydramine, or melatonin to his nighttime routine. Melatonin is pretty harmless. It's good for you, in fact, in some ways, to have the 5-HTP. So just talk to the pediatrician, make sure it's okay. I always recommend tranquil sleep, which I like a lot. I would highly suggest that you do that. It helps a lot. Maybe try to work out his energy earlier in the day. Definitely don't let him eat or drink after, let's say, 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. because that tends to increase energy level. Do some calming activities from 6 on so that he learns to rest. As I said, one of the things that's very calming for me is usually, and for a lot of kids, is usually music through headphones, maybe reading, if you can read him a story. Those are the types of things. I know it's a tough time because that is the time where we as parents want to try to do our own thing or relax as much as possible. It's so hard. Another thing is, don't forget that any kind, like if you do actually give him if you can have someone help you teach him a calming activity or routine from, let's say, 7 to 8 before he sleeps. Don't forget that the rocking motion of a rocking chair is actually very calming because it activates the parasympathetic nervous system. So rocking this way is a calming thing. Yeah. So those are something, like having him sit in a rocking chair and listen to music would be something very good.
One of the best pieces of advice that a friend gave me, who has 2 really wonderful, fabulous, kind young men. They're like, I think they're 16 and 20 now. But when they were younger, I remember they were just like those 11-year-olds that were just kind and nice. And I always would say to her, what is your secret? What do you do with boys that, and she said, oh, I just run them like dogs. She said, I said, what? And she said, I run them like dogs. They swim every day. Yes. They run every day. Yes. I make them constantly be going so that they're too busy to get into anything or do anything. And she said, and when night comes and I'm done, they are exhausted.
Absolutely. I mean, that is the number one thing. It's so true. If you can run them, then he'll be tired.
Yeah. I was like, I'm going to get that crocheted onto a pillow at some point.
Run them
like dogs. The great advice from a good friend who happens to be she's not a doula, she's a midwife. Oh,
okay, yeah.
So she knows a lot about babies. In any case, I digress. All right, I want to move on to a question. Hello, how do I teach my nonverbal son to request something to drink? He's 14. I know he's thirsty, but he won't use his board to say he's thirsty or to ask for water.
So I'd have a lot of questions about this. So, but I mean, you know, it's hard to give feedback without knowing these things. First of all, he's 14. So good Lord, I hope that he is using the rest of his PEX board. And I think you're referring to a PEX board when you say his board. But in any case, my biggest question is how are you determining that he is thirsty? Because you know that he's thirsty. Does he indicate somehow? Does he take you by the hand to the fridge? Does he point to things? Does he try to show you that he wants something? Or are you just assuming that he's thirsty and you give him a drink and he drinks it? I guess we'll go through both. If it's the first, if he somehow indicates to you that he is thirsty, then every time he does that, you have to prompt him or model for him to take to point to the board and or give you the velcroed on icon of a drink in order to receive a drink. If he's not, and you are just assuming it based on a particular schedule, then keep it on a schedule, and then make sure that every time this buzzer goes or something that you model for him to take the Velcro and give it to you. Now, a lot of times when we use boards, pointing is not a natural thing for our kids, and they don't necessarily understand that they're pointing to this one icon which gets them this thing. But taking a small icon that has been Velcroed onto a board and taking it off and handing it to you and trading it for a drink is much more of a communicative thing that occurs and helps kids understand that that's what they're actually doing. So I highly recommend that you do that. Now, if he doesn't, I don't know what his use of the rest of the board is, but when I have issues like this, I introduce the icon on its own. And then I merge it gradually onto the board so that it then becomes part of a bigger board. But if you put the icon on there with 20 other things, which by the way, no board should ever have more than 20 things on one page. But if you do put it on there, it could get lost and confused, and he might not know necessarily that what he's going for. So it would be important to start it on its own and then perhaps have it with a few other requests like food or what other things that he wants. But I cannot stress the importance of having a very well functioning visual system in place for someone who's nonverbal and 14 is probably the most important thing you can do for your child. Whether it's an augmentative device, an iPad, a PEX board, a PEX book, whatever it is, please have an expert to help develop this for your child. Getting something to drink is the least of your problems. As he ages, you are going to have teach him to communicate at least 50 very important things in order for him not to become frustrated and aggressive and so on. So it's very important that you develop this visual system for him right now.
Absolutely. It enrich their life, enrich your life. Really, really big game changer.
And I believe there's a module on our IBT site,
Yes,
which is just about visual systems.
Yes.
So please take a look at that.
ibehavioraltraining.com. You can check that out. All right, we're going to take a break, and then I think we're going to come back and cover some of the questions that have just come in. I do want to say that a couple of you have written in a couple of times asking specifically for the template for the April Smarty activity, which was the emotions booklet. We're going to post that for you on Facebook today, and thank you for being persistent and asking for it. We will get that to you. It's a really cool booklet, and I know you've been asking for it. Okay, and then we're going to come back in just a few minutes. Stick with us.
So we're going to do down dog next. So with down dog, there are several different ways that you can do it, and I want to show you first and then help you with yours. so that we can work on what feels good for you, okay? All right, because there's no right way to do it. It's more about what your body likes, all right? So for me, what I'm gonna do is start off with my hands at the top of my mat, my headlights. My fingers are aiming towards the top of my mat. And then I'm going to tuck my toes, and then my head is also gonna drop, and I'm going to look between my toes. Okay? And my body should be, or hopefully, like an A shape.
Or V.
Or V, yes.
Upside down V.
Yep. And so if your quads are tight or your hamstrings are tight, you might need to bend your knees a little bit.
Then it's a U.
Or if your shoulders are a little strained or a little tight, remember to push in through your feet. But also sometimes what feels really good is going down on your forearms like this. You can actually start out this way instead, it's a little easier. So your forearms rest on the floor. You still tuck your toes, and then you're still looking between your toes. But rather than being on your hands then, your weight's along your hands and your forearms. Okay? All right. So, now it's your turn. Okay? So, yep. You're gonna do on your hands? Okay, yep. So your fingers are facing the front of the mat. Are you doing forearms? Forearms? Okay, there we go. Wow, you're very bendy. Very nice. And your gaze is right here between your toes. Excellent. Very nice, Jem. Wow. Awesome. Feet are a nice distance apart. How does that feel?
Okay.
Awesome. You want to come down? Excellent. Good.
Welcome back to Autism Live. That was my kiddo doing yoga. We call it suchoga around here.
I love it.
So, but we're here right now with it's Dr. Doreen Grampuchet. It doesn't get better than that. And we're doing a segment called Ask Dr. Doreen. She's answering your questions in real time. In fact, we've had a couple of questions that came in the last half hour. There's no way I can get to all of them, but I want to get to a couple of them. Since we were talking about exercise, somebody said, how do I increase the exercise level of my nonverbal teenager? She loves to eat and has put on a lot of weight. She has very few interests.
Teenager, nonverbal. And they
girl.
just want to know how to increase exercise.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I assume that the teenager has someone helping take care of her or has some activities during the day, and you just have to build in exercises or physical activities and then reward them. Any kind of behavior that you want to increase, you just place it into her schedule and then you immediately reward it. And you can start with very small amounts. So let's say you want her to go for a 20-minute walk every day. I would just start with a 5-minute walk and then give her a highly rewarding stimulus, anything that she likes. So which she doesn't otherwise have access to. That's very important. If she has access to her favorite things all the time, then they satiate and they don't have as much reward power. So I'd find something that she really likes, perhaps a particular video or TV show or whatever it is, and make that contingent upon some sort of physical exercise. And I would start with a low amount of physical exercise and then gradually increase it. Just like we do for ourselves. I mean, I'll motivate every once in a while I'll get off my regime and then I'll get back on and I'll be like, okay, I'll do a 15-minute walk today. And then that gradually increases to a half-hour workout session, but it takes a while to get there, and I have to make sure that there's enough of, for most of us, just kind of reducing the guilt or feeling better is enough of a reward. Well, after
most of you mean most of you, not
people.
Most of us. But.
So then you have to really place reinforcements in your life that are based on that. Yeah.
and but I know that one of the things with my son, what that motion was, I know I'm the last person to talk about motivating anybody to exercise, but maybe coming from me, since it's something I struggle with, there are so many things now that are meant to be reinforcing. There's a whole bunch of video games. There's all those Just Dance videos where there's the avatar.
That's Wii stuff.
And the Wii stuff. The avatar is dancing with you.
It's unbelievably fun.
And so you don't know how bad you look because because you're looking at the avatar and your mirror neurons kind of light up and go, I look like that. Sometimes they have the little camera that shows you what you look like. That's not good for me. But the other ones are good. And there are tons of video games.
So true. And the Wii especially is very, very good for sports because you really can have, I remember the first time I saw a Wii, it was the boxing.
Yeah.
And I tried it, and within about 5 minutes, I was like sweating. I couldn't believe how intense it was. And then if you keep doing, there's so much now. There's everything from golf, tennis, but you name it, there's everything on the Wii. The dance stuff is spectacular. It's unbelievable. You do that for like 5 or 10 minutes. I can't even keep up. My daughter is always asking me to do that with her, and it's like, it's crazy exercise. So your daughter might really like that. That's a great idea.
And Jem and I will do that sometimes together in the kitchen. You just got to move the furniture back and make sure that you don't have a ceiling fan that's going to catch anybody. I learned that the hard way. Anyway, so let us know, though, what you eventually do and what works, because somebody else will appreciate knowing that. Okay, somebody wrote in and said, good morning. My high-functioning 7-year-old still reverses letters, P and B, M and W, B and D. It's in his reading and writing. Any suggestions? And thanks.
Well, this is a P and B,
M and
W, and
B and D.
Yeah. Okay, so these are just the ones that are very similar to each other. So this is I have 2 suggestions. One is that you would, first of all, whoever taught him letters, or if it is you or a teacher, or if it's an ABA therapist or someone, they just need to go back and do better discrimination training. So the 2 that are confused need to be placed aside next to each other and practiced. So both receptively and expressively. So like give me P versus give me D a lot, so that he or she gets a lot more practice with this. But one of the things that I find helps my kids when I try to teach this is that I will make a drawing of the letter that is something that starts with that letter. So for instance, for the P, I will turn it into a pig. For the D, I will draw a dog. And then I gradually will reduce the features of the dog, so that my child, when they see that letter, they automatically see dog, and it's like, okay, dog is D, and that helps them remember. So I think some sort of a visual cue on the letter itself will help.
They actually have little cards that have drawings on them that go, because it's the bubble. Which way does the bubble go?
Right.
Exactly. And so if on the dog drawing, it has the nose, and the nose points that way.
Right.
So those are
those already exist.
Cards.
Great.
Yes.
And also, I mean, M and W is pretty straight. It's McDonald's, right? M is McDonald's. That's the easiest one.
There we go. Now I want to get to this question because we're running out of time. But they wrote in and said, Dr. Doreen, I get notes home constantly about escape. My son, even if giving a little bit of access, will try. Oh, it just disappeared from my screen. Oh, I so hate that, how that happened. I have no idea what happened, Kelby.
Okay. But while you're looking for that.
I know that I pre-read it, though.
Go ahead,
and it said that their IEP is tomorrow.
Okay.
And there's a discussion about a BIP. But he's trying to escape no matter what happens. I will try to get that back.
Well, I mean, the solution for escape maintained behavior is to not allow escape. So it's really that simple. If someone has already identified that the function of your child's behaviors, let's say he tantrums in order to escape the classroom, the solution is to not allow the escape and to instead replace give the child an alternative way of expressing a desire to leave. So for instance, with the child should be given the ability to ask for a break, and therefore be given, taken out for a short stroll and brought back. But escape behavior is always just that. It's trying to escape a situation, trying to escape a demand, and it's very difficult. The way to manage it is to make sure the child has a way to ask for what they want, which is escape, but then also very important, because we can't always allow our kids to escape, right? If they're in the middle of a demand, they kind of have to complete the demand. So what becomes very important is to make sure the child you have a timer system in place, so the child knows that if they ask for a break, they can have a break. So the child would be taught let's say they start to have a tantrum or something. So what you would do is you'd prompt them to say, I need a break. They'd look at your, let's say, whatever you've taught them to look at, or you can model it verbally and they'll say, I need a break or break. And then what you do is you immediately set the timer, and initially you'd set it for, let's say, 5 seconds. And so they would now start to condition. This is a combination of classical conditioning and operant conditioning. So they would learn, oh, you know, I asked for a break, and I get the break as soon as the buzzer goes. And then you gradually increase the timer. So then they actually learn that they have to wait for 10 minutes before they get their break. But that stops their behavior, because we only have those challenging behaviors because we feel frustrated and we don't feel like we're getting what we want, and no one's listening to us.
Okay, I got to back up. So the additional part of it, some of the notes are concerning to me because I already told them, the teachers, when he started the school, that he will do this. The teachers are saying if the door is left open on accident, he will run out, but he never gets very far. This is what the teachers are saying. Again, our IEP is tomorrow. What can I bring up to them so we can eliminate this behavior? And you've already touched on that a great deal. I'm sure that they have not done a BIP yet. This is the same kiddo who I asked Shannon about a few months ago, who jumped straight into our pool when we moved into our new house. So there's a little bit of impulse.
Right, and this is a little bit more than just escape maintained behavior. This is literally physical escape from the classroom, which can be dangerous. So what you need to ask for is, first of all, they need to do a BIP immediately. That's just ridiculous. Okay, so they have to do that right away. Second thing is, and in order to do a BIP, they need to do a functional behavior assessment in order to identify that. Now, second thing is, though, that you need to definitely get some sort of security on that door. There are these alarms where if the door is left open, the alarm goes off. I don't care how they do it. They need the resources. They need to make sure they can put at very minimum, there's a little thing on the end of the door that closes it automatically so it doesn't allow the door to stay open. They need to definitely put one of those on. So, because you're concerned more about a safety issue, I think, than anything else, they have to do that. And as long as he gets out of the door, he's gotten what he wants. Yeah. So it's not a matter of he doesn't get far. At this point, his escape is not even really escaping. It's more about disrupting people and having someone search after him, which is probably kind of fun for him. So he absolutely cannot be allowed to leave the room at all. So they have to be very cautious about that.
And I think you're right to be concerned. How great is it that you got an IEP tomorrow?
Yes,
because otherwise you'd be making one. And I think as a parent, a lot of times when somebody is underreacting, we feel bad and like maybe we're overreacting. Let go of that. Go ahead and overreact. So that you can get them up to where you are, because I think you're exactly right. It's a safety issue. Right. I would encourage you to have a tape recorder at your IEP, and I would say avante aquendo at least 3 times during the IEP to let them know that you're serious and that there have been consequences before, and that if they lose your child, that you already brought up avante aquendo during your IEP. Let them know that you're the kind of mom that this is not going to work.
That's right.
Be nice.
Yeah.
Bring cookies, but let them know.
Absolutely.
I'll have your back.
So, and I know we're out of time,
yes,
but
totally
I do want to quickly address something else that came in, which was
Yes.
from a card parent who was basically saying, can cards stop taking on new clients because we older clients are not being fulfilled, our hours are not being fulfilled. And while I hear often say that I think that it's important to get the hours that we recommend, if we recommend 40 hours, it's important to get the 40 hours. This parent is saying that unfortunately that doesn't always happen with card clients because we are taking on new clients and then we're short on therapists. So this is a real problem, and I do want to address it because I don't want to be preaching something that doesn't really happen, and I want to empower parents to help us with this. The problem is that, first of all, you have to know that, personally, from my perspective, obviously, I want to be able to help as many people as I possibly can. There really shouldn't be a reason that we say no to parents, because recruiting and bringing in new therapists is not such a hard thing to do. We should be able to train them fast enough, which we do. And we have a huge training department. We have more people in training than anything. But the bigger issue, I think, is that you have to realize that most of the funding that we receive now for you, for any card parent is insurance. And insurance will not accept us or any other agency in network unless we are able to start clients within a certain period of time. For instance, I'll give you an example that's happening right now. Kaiser will only accept us as an in-network provider if we agree that when they refer a patient to us, we start the patient within, are you ready for this? 10 days. 10 days, which is an extreme burden on us. It is an extreme, it's very, very difficult for us to take Kaiser patients that fast. But why do we try to do it? Because if we said no, then all of our existing kids and any other child who is a Kaiser patient would never be able to get to us. And these are the types of burdens that parents don't realize we're constantly committing to. Another one is TRICARE. We have regulations that we need to adhere to in order to remain in network if we're lucky enough to get in network to begin with. And the reason we do everything we can to do those things is just so we can help more of our existing kids. Now, having said that, it is still a problem. Now, here's how you as a parent can help us. We have a recruiting department now, which is growing, but if you can help us to recruit therapists, if you know what, I go to Islands restaurants and I see these wonderful people working there, and I constantly give out my card. And some of our best therapists here are people that I've recruited from places like Islands or Starbucks or whatever. So if you help us recruit therapists, that's one way you can help us. Another way you can help us is by allowing us to do overlaps on your child's case, bringing new trainees and allowing us to teach them using your child is another way. Another way you can help us is by being flexible and opening your schedule. A lot of parents will put things in their schedule which really are nowhere near as important as ABA. I've had parents say, oh, but we can't give you those hours because he has basketball practice. And let me tell you, as much as I care about socialization, nothing is more important than your ABA sessions. So if you can make more hours available to us, then that helps. Because, you know, if you're, like, I still have issues with parents even pulling their children out once a month in the morning, pulling your child out from school so you can come to clinic, so that the supervisor can see what's going on with your child. Those types of things are just what you can do to help us more. And then finally, if you are able to bring your child to the center, as opposed to having all of our therapists drive to you, then that speeds things up significantly. Imagine the amount of time our therapists spend driving. I know it's more convenient for parents, but the truth is, research shows that therapy can be done just as well in the centers. So those are just a few things that you can do as a family, as a current card family, to help us out, because all we're really trying to do is help as many kids as we can.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We've gone over and kept you over, and we're hoping to have an opportunity to have you come back to catch you for a couple of minutes with Byron Katie. We're going to take a break now and go to the A word, and then stick around because it's time for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy and our very special guest today, Byron Katie, right after the A word.
My name is Jack Riley.
I know a cute little blue-eyed boy, and his name is Jack.
Jack Riley.
He got a big, warm, blue-eyed soul that makes your heart beat fast.
Exciting.
I say Jack, Jack, Jack is my buddy. Jack, Jack, Jack is my buddy. Everybody around is so down with Jack.
So Jack Riley, how old are you?
6.
Are you in first grade?
No, it's going to be first grade though.
So what are you in now?
I'm going 0th grade.
You're in. What do you call 0th grade?
Kindergarten.
The A word.
I think that word was far worse than we ever expected.
Yeah, I remember I kicked the garbage can when we were outside. My foot hurt. I remember that. That wasn't a very good day.
Say, yeah, there we orange. What is it? What's your dad's name? Like.
It's I guess it's a pretty good example of what it could look like. I mean, there's struggles for all kids, but the fact that they were, Cheryl and Mike were so great, you know, taking in our parent training and utilizing the tools that we gave them and being on board with us and being consistent. I feel like consistency is so important because sometimes I know when parents come home, it's just easier for them to just give the child whatever it is that they need because they've had therapy all day. But consistency, I feel, is so important. And that's, you know, how you get over, you know, their behaviors, their difficulties, and yeah. So, yeah, consistency is key. And it's obviously worked for them.
Like that, okay? Ready? You can do it. 1, 2, 3. Yay! Good job!
Good job, Jack. We adore him, so whether you do the right thing because of that, you're doing something because of it.
I think I saw it.
Coincidentally, some of it's right.
When we first, you know, you hear autism, and of course I did all the online research to scare you to pieces, and you know, one of the things that probably hit me the hardest was that he's not supposed to be a kid who likes affection. He's not supposed to be a kid who's going to put out affection, and of course that's not true. But you know, what did we know at the time? So I think then, and it's in both of our nature that we thought we could love it out of him, which is probably one of the best things that we ever did.
Maybe, I don't know.
I'm going to marry somebody.
Yeah.
Eloise.
Eloise? You've got a lot of contenders, though, for who you might
Yes,
marry.
I do.
Who else might you marry?
She's the only one I'm going to marry.
Oh, yeah?
I hope.
And as I said many years ago, I want him to date. I think that forms you. It informs everything in your life. You know, getting your heart broken, breaking a heart, confidence, insecurity, everything's informed by dating. And I really want him to do that. And to me, that's a typical behavior.
Just that, I don't know, I mean, he's just such a cool kid. It's just, we are amazed every day at some of the stuff that he says and does, and feel very, I guess, honored, privileged to be his parents.
Well, what if Mommy asks you to eat broccoli? What will you do?
I would eat it, but I don't like it.
Okay.
It just tastes like, because I don't like eating trees. And that looks like a tree.
That's true. You don't like eating trees?
It looks like a small tree, like this big a tree.
Yeah.
That's one thing that autism has done for us. If I just don't know that if you don't go through this, that you, I mean, I was never someone who lived in the present very well. I tend to look to the future a lot, always planning what's next, and boy, he helps me to live in the present because you just have to. You have to appreciate every little thing.
A part of me wants him to forget that he ever even had therapy, just to grow up and make memories, make friends, and yeah, be successful in life.
Perfect. Now pull the other bunny in. You did it! Design is escape.
It's not a death sentence. A lot of joy and growth, and when you find the fun, it's probably bigger than it ever would have been with a typical kid because you work so hard for it. And that's about it, I think.
Can you take this off?
Makeup.
Temperamental stock.
Nailed it.
It has become a star-studded, celebrity-attended mega fundraiser. And it should, because autism is increasing so dramatically. We need more moments like this.
It's kind of like going to the Oscars, and I get to host all of these unbelievably generous people to show their support for children with autism that cannot access or afford treatment.
To be in a position where I could contribute to a cause like this is the least I could do.
Hey, now we're going to 500. You're going to 500. Let's start at 500. Now to 7. 6 minutes. 7. Cool. I know you're ready.
I first want to thank everybody for coming out and really helping this Denims and Diamonds fundraiser, because autism has affected so many people, and the work that they've been doing is just off the charts and just wonderful.
Hello, good morning, and welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I'm Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson.
And I'm Shannon Penrod, and you just saw previous D&Ds.
Yes, including our most recent one, which was two Sundays ago?
Yes.
Right, and we had our Halloween show last week, so we didn't talk about it, but we just want to talk a little bit about it today. I'm sorry, I'm adjusting so I can hear Kelby out there.
Because in just a few minutes, when we go to break, we're going to be joined by Byron Katie. I know some of you are tuning in to see Byron Katie, and we're very excited to have her on the show.
And she's going to be doing the work with me.
Ooh, very excited about it. If you're not familiar with Byron Katie and have just stumbled across us, you've come to the right place.
Yes.
You've come home. But we're going to talk briefly about D&D, Denim and Diamonds and Stars for Autism.
Which was great. You were there. You were on the red carpet. I think we have some photos of Shannon hitting me on the red
pictures of me.
interviewing me on the red carpet. And it was quite, I'm sorry, I keep looking over. There we are.
Oh.
There you are, talking to me on the red carpet.
There's
That's
Nancy
me in a gown that was designed by Saeed Kobesi, and we auctioned it off.
So Nancy looks like a Barbie, and I look at you with
There's Lisa.
Gibbons.
She opened the show for us, my darling Lisa, who I was her executive producer, and she's remained one of my dearest friends.
And she was just lovely.
And then is there one of Heavenly Joy with Lisa? Or is there's Little Heavenly Joy from America's Got Talent with Lisa. She performed and was just amazing.
She brought the house down. It was truly wonderful.
And then do we have Sean Stockman and Sharonda by any chance? That's Sean and Sharonda who were honored, and that's Terry Lewis and his wife. Terry Lewis is one of the biggest R&B producers of all time.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know that, but he is, and he came that evening. And then we were auctioning off that gown, and Howie comes bursting onto the stage and says he'll throw in his pants by Lululemon, and he dropped them. He dropped trow and actually took them off, and he actually threw in his underwear in the bargain. He did not take his underwear off, but he did raise quite a bit of money for us. But he said Sean Stockman had raised a lot of money right before that by auctioning off VIP tickets and a trip to Las Vegas to hear Boys to Men. And Sean Stockman, for those of you who didn't see him on the show a couple of weeks ago, he and his wife Sharonda have their own charity, Micah's Voice, named after their son with autism, Micah, who is 13. And Sean was honored, and Sean sang a cappella medleys of his hits to raise the bidding, saying, okay, I'm going to be singing this. So Howie said he didn't have Sean's talent, so he could just go out there and make of himself and offer his pants. So it was quite the evening.
It was quite the evening, and thank you for being the fearless leader that made that
It was
happen.
a hard evening for me because my husband was in the hospital.
And no one would have known that at the event because you were a champion. You looked like a Barbie. You were dressed like a Barbie.
I don't want to look like a Barbie. I don't know that I want that look, but I would like to look good.
On any given day, I would be willing to look like a Barbie once.
Okay.
I look like Barbie's like inmate in prison. Yeah. But anyway, you looked fabulous. And it was a wonderful event. It raised a whole bunch of money.
We think about a quarter of $1,000,000. We're going to find out the
Truly
final numbers.
amazing.
Yeah.
So thank you to everybody who supported all of the
Big shout out to
sponsors.
Daphne Plump, the event producer, and to Amy Zhang, of course,
yeah.
in our office, who does so much, and all the sponsors like CARD and TWIW and Raymond Rocks. Yeah, very nice. Yeah.
All right. So we'll probably talk some more about Denim and Diamonds in the coming weeks, but it's time. We have to take a break because we're going to be joined in just a few moments by Byron Katie,
who is the author of Loving What Is, among
many
other books,
yeah.
and does a process called The Work, 4 questions that can change your life. And her purpose here, she says, is to alleviate suffering. And because I am, in my opinion, doing a lot of suffering because of my husband's cancer, my son's autism, and our financial crisis because of the resulting 2 conditions. I'd like to see how she can alleviate mine. I try not to suffer. I try to be proactive, but to me, there is some suffering inherent in those situations. I'd like to see. It's going to be interesting to see how she deals with it.
Yeah, Nancy's willing to do some of the
Bare
work
my soul.
with Katie, and we're thrilled to have Katie on the show and talk and introduce to some of you who don't know what the work is and how it might be helpful to you. So we'll be right back after these messages. What do you think about the prevalence of autism, the rising number of prevalence, and what are your thoughts on what this world is going to be like with so many individuals on the autism spectrum?
I think a lot of the increase is just increased detection on the milder spectrum, but I think there is some severe autism that's increased. Older parents having children would be one factor. You know, lack of vitamins, like B vitamins prior to pregnancy, chemical insults, taking prescription drugs in the first trimester. There's a whole lot of little insults like this that can interact with susceptible genetics. I work in a technical field, and there's mild autism and Asperger's and dyslexics all over it. One of the best millwrights in the feedlot industry is severe dyslexic. He's one of the best millwrights that there is, and that builds complicated feed mills. And the thing that worries me is they've taken so many of the hands-on classes out of the school: cooking, sewing, woodworking, metalworking, auto shop. There's a lot of kids that are kind of different. They make great mechanics, and we have a shortage of mechanics right now. We have a shortage of engineers. I'm getting concerned that there's some smart kids that are kind of different, kind of getting a handicap label. Now, where the diagnosis really makes a difference is later on in life with their relationships. And the wife is wondering why the husband is not very demonstrative and, you know, not very lovey-dovey and emotional. And this is where getting a diagnosis can really help their marriage, because then the wife understands. See, that's where that kind of, when it comes to relationships, that's where the diagnosis can really, really make a difference. I think one of the problems today is sort of a more social society today. You know, the kid that was a little bit not too social before, he'd be out there in the auto mechanic shop, getting along great with the shop teacher, and they got rid of that kind of stuff. You see, I'm in a weird situation where I walk back and forth between the autism world and the sort of metalworking and cattle working kind of world. And there's farmers that I know that are on the spectrum, and they're doing great in farming.
So maybe it's not that they're not these kids actually do have a diagnosis then, but maybe the prevalence was there before?
Well, I think on the mild end, I think the prevalence is probably there. But I think there's severe autism that has increased. There's way too much sugar in the diet. We also have an omega-3 deficient diet in this country. We're not getting enough omega-3s. I think let's go back to the alternative things: fish oil supplements, some of the B vitamins, and lots of exercise. Kids are eating way too much sugar, and kids are not just getting enough activity. You know, mother used to say to me, go outside and run the energy out of you. Well, the kids aren't doing that today, so that makes the ADHD worse.
What would you do if your child was hurting?
If your family's future was uncertain.
If help seemed out of reach.
Have you been given no hope?
Taga means I am not alone in this.
This is the reality for families affected by autism, and today
The number of children with autism is growing more rapidly than ever. Taka unites these families and shows that they do not have to fight this battle alone.
Our oldest son, Jared, who has autism, when we first took him to the doctor to get the diagnosis, you know, it's so sad because they offer you nothing. There's no help, there's no hope. One of the things that you learn with autism is being very grateful for even the small milestones. You know, when you first get the diagnosis, you go through all the range of emotions. You know, this can't be happening. Why is this happening? You have to get to a point where it's the emotion that has to be leading is, what can I do? The first thing that struck me was walking to a room and seeing, oh my gosh, we're not alone. And there is this very strong community that's already set. And something I still today associate with Taka the most is hope. To me, that's what Taka means. Taka means hope.
It's like you've got all these dreams and goals of what your son's going to do, and you get your diagnosis and you're sent home. And that's it. There's no plan of action. There's no, here's autism, here's what we're going to do to make your life better and help him. It's strictly go home and try to process it and go on the internet. It was devastating, and you just, you know, you go through this 3-week of depression, and then you snap out of it. You have to. And then you start making phone calls and trying to figure out what is autism and what are we going to do. And then we found Taka, and it was life-changing.
Autism, there really is no definitive answer. It is trying to find the resources that are out there that can assist you to help your child so that, you know, you just don't feel so helpless at those particular moments.
There was direction and there was hope and there was a little ray of sunshine that he's going to be okay and we're going to be okay. I always look back and think we would never be where we are. Carson wouldn't be where he is at without Taka.
So 13 years ago, my son was diagnosed with autism, and that put our whole family into a tailspin. There were so many different ideas and things that were not proven. Nobody knew what guidance to give us. We had no direction. And then we found Taka. They helped give us a path to follow, help give our son a better future and make him healthy and put him back onto the road of recovery. When your son's first diagnosed, the first thing you hope for is, gosh, I just want my son to speak. I just want to be able to communicate with him in some way. Then you want a little more. You want him to go to a regular school. Then you want him to potentially have a real life and go to college. So you're always hoping for the future of your child. My son is a happy, healthy, vibrant young boy that's going to turn 15 really soon. And we couldn't be more pleased, and without Taka, I don't think we'd be in the place that we are today. We believe the future is not defined for many affected by autism. There is hope and direction for these kids and their families. Taka is dedicated to providing community, support, education, and hope to families affected by autism.
At Taka?
At Taka.
At Taka, we are families with autism helping.
Helping.
Helping families.
Helping families with autism.
Hi, my name is Matt. I am 19 years old, and I was diagnosed with autism when I was 6 years old. Autism is one of the fastest growing developmental disabilities in the United States, but I am living proof that with the right treatment, hope is possible. My future is not limited. Today, I am attending Fullerton Community College, and I run for the cross-country team for fun with my friends. It makes me feel proud when I think about my progress. Chances are you know someone affected by autism. Show them they are not alone and help others get on the road to recovery. Contribute to Talk About Curing Autism today.
The Institute for Behavioral Training provides courses in applied behavior analysis for the treatment of autism. Access IBT e-learning videos on the move and learn at your own pace.
I'm going to talk a little bit
intensity.
IBT e-learning makes any location your classroom on the go.
So our objectives for today are to really learn what is autism and how is it diagnosed.
Get professional guidance with IBT face-to-face training. IBT face-to-face training courses prepare you to effectively implement ABA-based interventions. Choose between small group and one-to-one instruction. Earn BCBA supervision hours via one-to-one video conferencing.
So I had a chance to review your VIP today. You know what? It looked really good. You did a good job with that.
IBT continuing education courses. Earn credit through webinars, conferences, article reviews, and e-learning videos. You can learn more at ibehavioraltraining.com. IBT, 360 degrees of ABA training.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Autism.
We just had Doreen run out the door. She's here to hear
yes,
Byron Katie.
Dr. Doreen Grampachet just came into the studio to say hello to Byron Katie and then ducked out so that she could hear. But Nancy and I are so excited because joining us via Skype right now is the really wonderful and fabulous, there she is, Byron Katie. And
Hello.
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 And Katie, thank you so much for being with us here today. We're all at Twitter and excited. For people who have never heard of you before, which I can't imagine that there's anybody out there who hasn't, but you are an amazing author. I've got your book, which was transformational for me in my life, Loving What Is, right here on the desk.
Yes.
You have given so much to so many people, helping to shine a flashlight into a way for us to find peace, and as you say, end suffering, that's your goal, to help us to end suffering. So I thank you for being here. I'm so excited that I know you've done extensive work with all kinds of people, even in prisons, and certainly you've done a lot of work with parents of children on the autism spectrum. And so thrilled that they've got a closer look at you today and have an opportunity to hear you in a little while. We're gonna talk about some things with Nancy and see if we can turn a thought around. But we thought we'd start, Katie, with introducing people who aren't familiar with what the work is and how it came about.
Well, the work is it's a process of meditating on a moment in time where we were stressed out. Maybe we were arguing with someone, or maybe we were feeling, we were worried about something or someone, or we were angry, upset. So those things continue to reoccur in our minds, and it's the cause of depression, etc. So the work is a way to identify what we were thinking and believing in that situation where we were experiencing stress. So
it's really transformational. But I wonder, Katie, if you could tell a little bit about how it came to be. How did you become so wise and discover the work?
Well, it was after years of depression, agoraphobia, just a terrible state of mind. I was sleeping on the floor because I was so full of self-loathing, I didn't believe I even deserved a bed to sleep in. Now, that's low, and I really was suicidal. So this particular morning, I was sleeping on the floor, and actually a cockroach crawled over my foot, and I opened my eyes, and I woke up in two ways. I woke up like I woke up every morning, and I also woke up with no identification. It was just that moment in time where there was no thought. And then the mind, all those thoughts just hit me, and all of a sudden there was a window and a ceiling and a bed and there was this whole world that existed. So I saw in that moment that when I believed my thoughts, I suffered, and when I didn't believe them, I didn't suffer. So out of that came this process that I call the work. It's a way to question the thoughts that you're thinking and believing that cause all the all the stress in your life, all the heartache in your life, and all the suffering in the world, actually.
And for a lot of our viewers, this might sound a little foreign and like, well, that just sounds a little too easy.
A little overly simplistic. Is it as simple as it sounds, Katie?
Well, you know, that's one complaint I hear about the work. It's so simple, but if it were not simple, I never would have discovered it. And so, you know, it's actually, when we look at it, it takes a lot of courage to do the work, because we're questioning those assumptions and those judgments that are running our life.
Now, let me ask you, you say it takes a lot of work to do the work. Is it something, once you
Takes
learn
a lot of
it,
courage.
or courage, sorry, not work. Is it something that once someone learns, they can do sort of habitually, or is it something that, like a muscle, has to be flexed? How easy is this to access and to continue once you've started the process?
Well, people who do the work for a while, in other words, continue to question what they believe, it just becomes automatic in your head. It's just like you've grown like a third arm or something. It's just like, that, is it true? It's like eventually every assumption you make ends in a question mark. So it leaves one with a very open mind. And when our mind is open, we see options that weren't there, that aren't available to a closed mind.
Okay. And I had a question about what are some of the transformations that you've seen in people's lives that have practiced this, either on a one-time basis or on a continual basis? What have you seen besides the transformation in your own life?
Well, their lives shift so dramatically that the letters, the emails that pour into me are just, it's so, it's amazing to receive that kind of feedback. And, you know, the work is, anyone can do it if their mind is open to it.
And I certainly have seen, and we had just heard from Dr. Granpeche that, you know, she thanked you for your work and the work in her life, and just by virtue of seeing you and seeing you work with people and reading your book, it was transformational for me. And I know so many people in my life. In fact, when I posted on Facebook yesterday about the fact that you were going to be on, I received an outpouring of messages both on Facebook and in my personal email talking about people whose lives you saved through this work. So I think it's important for people to you know, we're gonna do some work with Nancy in just a second. I think I want to encourage everybody who's listening to have an open mind to the possibility that maybe there's another way of looking at things and receiving things, and we're gonna learn from Katie.
We're gonna learn it, but first I want to tell our viewers, if they're interested in this, do you call it a technology, a technique? I'm wondering what to call it, Katie.
You know, it's a process. For me, it's a practice.
Okay. So
and
a practice and a process.
It's as though, you know, people they take a few moments out of their lives, let's say in the morning, just to get still and meditate. Mm-hmm. Well, the work is meditation. We're meditating on an assumption. And for example, he doesn't care about me, or there's something wrong with me, or I don't have enough money, or my child is hopelessly ill. You know, any of these thoughts, and let's say my child is hopelessly ill, then I would just sit in, meditate on, is it true? My child is hopelessly ill. Can I really know that it's true? My child is hopelessly ill. And then just meditate on that, and then notice how you react, what happens when you believe that thought. And as you meditate on that, you see clearly those situations where you were so worried, and you see how you react, and you notice the emotions that happen when you believe the thought. And out of that, how you treat your child and yourself when you believe that thought. The depression, the addictions for some of us that take hold. And then you meditate on that fourth and last question. Who would you be in that situation, for example, with your child, without the thought, my child is hopelessly ill? And do you see something there that has always been, it's radical to see what we see without our story. And then we turn it around, my child is hopelessly ill, turn it around. In that moment, I'm hopelessly ill in my head when I see my child that way. Another turnaround, my child is not hopelessly ill. And then we meditate on that to see what arises to meet that turnaround. So, you know, that meditation, it takes, you know, it's a process, and it takes maybe 10, 20 minutes, whatever you can spare in your life to radically change it. And sanity is a big time saver.
Yes.
When we're living out of fear and stress, we get a lot accomplished.
How can people find out more about the work? How can they access it? Besides the book, the latest is Loving What Is, the 4 questions that can change your life, which people can pick up. What is your website? How can people find out more about this?
My website is thework.com. And everything of value is free on that site.
Okay.
And we have a helpline there that is that anyone can call, no charge, and just have a judge your neighbor worksheet filled in. In other words, your thoughts about a stressful situation on paper, and we'll even help you with that if you don't have it. But we'll just do the work with you, and we don't ask your name or who you are or where you're from. We just support you to understand the work and until you can do it yourself.
Great. So you're going to do this with me, and what's I think particularly good about the situation I am in is that I do have a child with autism who is not recovered, but we'll talk about this, and a lot of our viewers are in the same situation. They have other circumstances in their life that are very difficult. They have a lot of financial stress because of those circumstances, and I fit all 3 of those. So we're going to talk about that when we get back and have you do the work with me. I'm excited.
Wonderful.
Okay. All right, we're going to take one short break and we'll be right back after this message.
Hello, fellow activists. In our last segment, we talked about step number 2, educate yourself. Step number 3 is get support. Now, any journey can feel overwhelming if you feel like you're walking it alone. Well, you're far from alone, because with 1 in 50 kids diagnosed with autism today, there are a lot of us out there. Of course, there's always the issue of financial support. Now, there's a handful of organizations out there that offer financial support to families in need. ACT Today, or Autism Care and Treatment Today, is one of them. Visit our website at www.act-today.org to find out more about our grant process. I want to talk about a different kind of support today, emotional support. Now, you can get that from other travelers on this path. Some of the best advice I've ever received is from the moms of other kids with autism who went to school with Wyatt or were involved with programs with him. Then there are the pioneers. These are the families that have gone through this years ago, and there was very little information out there. All of these people seem to have the desire to pay it forward. Now, one of them, Lisa Ackerman, who is one of my mentors, started an organization called TACA, Talk About Curing Autism. She actually took the concept of mentors and support groups and made it available to everybody. You can go to their website, talkaboutcuringautism.org, to find out more. During the first and most difficult year after Wyatt's diagnosis, I wrote an email to close family and friends, letting them know what was going on and the challenges our family was facing, and why we dropped out of sight. I was amazed at the outpouring of love and affection and all the help I received from that email. First, you have to be vulnerable.
You can't be afraid to ask. Try this out. Could you cook me a meal? Are you going to the market? Can you pick me up a few things? Could your kids play with my kid and make them feel included? Or can you come over and clean my house? Well, maybe not that last one, except with your best friend. And maybe the best support of all is having someone that listens, and that doesn't cost a dime. So until next time, surround yourself with the loving kindness of others and keep the faith.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Nancy and I are very grateful that we have with us right now live via Skype Byron Katie, author of Loving What Is. And that's an understatement because there's so many other books that she's written as well, but an amazing, amazing guide and powerful, powerful woman. She's been talking with us about the work. And Nancy has agreed to do some of the work with Katie live so that you guys can get an idea of what happens when you wade in. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
Are you ready, Katie?
Yes, Nancy. What is the situation that is has been stressful for you regarding your child and autism and everything that you must deal with?
Can I
in your courageous life?
Yes. I am overwhelmed by the responsibilities of having a chronically ill husband with advanced prostate cancer and renal failure, a child with autism, and the resultant financial disaster that has happened to my family due to those two circumstances, and being the primary breadwinner and running a national foundation, which is a great joy to me. But having a chronically ill husband for 20 years, a child with autism who is 14, and the resultant responsibilities that are on my shoulders is overwhelming.
Wow. I'm just breathless listening to that. So you have to take care of your husband and child.
Correct.
Is it true?
Yes.
I hear you say yes, it's correct. And then we're working with the 4 questions here. You have to take care of these 2 people.
Yes.
You absolutely know that it's true that you have to take care of them.
Yes.
And how do you react? What happens when you believe that thought that you have to take care of them?
It is feeling like every day there's a mountain to scale.
So get in touch with the emotions that go with that. You've felt them over and over and over, so they are familiar to you.
Very familiar. Very familiar.
So
and very familiar in that I come from a background with a brother with Down syndrome and a mother that was an alcoholic that I did a lot of caregiving for. So.
Oh boy, boy, oh boy. Okay. So with your husband and child, you have to take care of them.
Yes.
Now, in the mornings, like this morning, do you see the situation where you're with your husband, you're with your son? Is it a son?
Yes.
You're with your husband, you're with your son.
Yes.
Do you see that situation?
Yes.
You see you assisting them?
Yes.
Okay. Now, in that situation, imagine being there as you were, assisting them. Who would you be without the thought you have to take care of them? Who would you be without that story on them? So now it's almost as though, Nancy, you just look at you, look at them in that situation as though you're standing aside or you're up above it looking down. Who would you be as you witness those people without the thought, I have to take care of them?
I'm trying to separate the thought from the actual reality of the caregiving, because I can't, in my mind, separate the two.
You see you there with the 2.
Yes. I see me getting my son ready. I see all the things I have to do that.
Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent.
I see all
Now,
the things I have to do.
who would you be doing all of that without the thought, I have to do this?
Without the thought I have to do this?
Yes. I mean, you're
I guess
doing
it would,
all the right things.
right.
Just who would you be without the thought, I have to do this?
I guess I would be a person that, I mean, if I got rid of the thought that I have to do it, it would feel good, but the reality
Yeah.
is I do have to do it.
Okay. Oh, well, that's okay.
Okay. Because I
Just
do have to
go-
do it.
just-
Nobody else is doing it. Nobody else
That's o-
can do it.
That's okay.
Okay.
That's okay.
All right.
I'm just asking you who you would be
If I didn't
without
have the thought that I have to do this, I would feel a lot of burdens lifted.
Okay, so just visit that for a moment. Look at you doing all that you do without the thought, I have to do this.
And I choose to do it because that's my...
That's very different.
But I do choose to do it. And I've always chosen to do
That's
it.
very different than I have to do it.
Okay.
I have to take care of my husband and children. So now we've done the 4 questions.
Okay.
So let's find opposites.
Okay.
I have to care for my husband and son. Turn it around. I don't have to.
I don't have to care for my husband and son?
No, you're free. You don't have to. You do it. You do it because of who you are and what you are at your core. It's simply the right thing to do out of your heart, but you don't have to do it. And you never had to do it. This is just a way of experiencing you beyond this concept that I have to take care of them. It's so important to see who you are in this.
I do, though, Katie, see that I choose to do it because it is the right thing to do. But that doesn't, for me, take away the suffering of seeing my husband with 3 bags hanging out of his body, a leg swollen.
Your husband is suffering.
Yes.
Okay, you saw him this morning.
And I love him, and to see him suffering is very hard.
Okay, and you saw him this morning.
Yes.
He is suffering.
Yes.
Is it true? And I invite
Yes.
all of you watching this on Skype today to find someone in your life that you believe is suffering and go back to that situation where you're with that person and they're suffering and follow along. This is inquiry. And there aren't any right or wrong answers. It's just witnessing the situation again in your mind's eye. It's looking again.
Okay. So is he suffering?
So your husband
is suffering.
Is suffering.
Yes.
Is it true?
Yes.
Can you absolutely know that it's true your husband is suffering?
Yes.
Okay. Now you said it so quickly. You're not, or I'm not getting that you are meditating on that moment in time. So we're meditating on that moment in time this morning. Your husband is suffering. Look again, get close. In other words, look at him closely. Your husband is suffering. Can you absolutely know that it's true he's suffering? So witness, I invite all of you in the audience to witness in your mind's eye with your eyes closed. And the answer is either yes or no. It's not no but or yes but or because. It's just yes or no.
Right.
And some of us are new to meditation, and it takes a lot of stillness and patience for some of us. And can you absolutely know that it's true your husband is suffering?
Yes.
Now notice how you react. What happens when you believe this thought or you think this thought, my husband is suffering? What happens to your emotions when you think that thought?
I feel compassion. I feel loss, regret, pain.
Yes. Now, and Nancy, notice the images that were in your head in that moment in time of past and future, when you had the thought, my husband is suffering. Notice the future you saw in your head regarding you, him, and your son, and your finances, and all of it.
Extreme worry, anxiety, and responsibility.
Yes.
A sense of I'm burdened, yes.
So this is what's happened in the moment we think the thought, my husband is suffering in that situation. Now let's move to question 4. And there are only 4.
Okay.
Who would you be? You see you there with your husband. Who would you be without the thought, my husband is suffering? Look at him. Just drop the thought just for a moment. Without the thought, my husband is suffering, look at him. What else do you see? And I'm inviting all of you to get connected with that human being. It's like drop your story, witness. What else do you see? Who would you be without the thought, my husband is suffering?
I would be detached from his suffering.
And you feel the connection?
The connection I have with his suffering?
The connection you have with your husband.
Do I feel the connection I have with him? Yes.
It's like that thing drops and you're connected. That separation drops and you're connected. Let's turn it, and it's so beautiful to get connected with our loved ones like this. It's, we're ending the fear of suffering. Like in my life, I'm so grateful that this work found me, because anyone suffering, it's something, there's something in me that it's as though when it comes to suffering, I'm fearless. So I'm there to serve, and I'm connected, and to laugh, and to love, and to serve. It's what our lives are about. And when I think the thought, he's suffering, there's a disconnect. It's not right or wrong, but I see those images like you did, Nancy. Those images are of the future and past are necessary before we can believe it, and suffering sets in. So let's turn it around. My husband is suffering. Turn it around to yourself.
Okay.
In that moment, I am.
Turn it around from where I'm.
An opposite. My
opposite.
husband is suffering.
My husband
I
is
am.
suffering.
My husband is suffering. I am.
I am, but I'm turning it around. I'm not suffering with him. I'm not.
It takes a little. Let me guide you here.
Okay.
You're so new to the work. My husband is suffering. Turned around to myself, I am suffering.
Yes, my husband is suffering and I am suffering.
Yes. Now, you don't have cancer. One of you is healthy, the other has cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So we might say one of you is legitimately suffering,
mm-hmm.
and you're free of cancer. So it's like if I'm standing there with my husband and he's suffering, why am I suffering? It's almost as though if I don't suffer when you suffer, it means I don't care about you. If I don't suffer when you suffer, it means I don't love you. That's crazy. There are two people suffering there in my world. just my own experience, there's something off with that. So I'm just taking a look at my husband suffering, turn around, I'm suffering. Okay, why am I suffering? I just discovered why. I saw how I react when I believe the thought. I went into the past and future. So it wasn't my husband that was the cause of my suffering. It was the images in my head from the past and future. And how that affected you. So our husband takes the rap for what we're thinking and believing and imaging. So it's like our suffering is not his fault and it's not our fault. We're simply believing our thoughts. You know, those images, it's a movie. And when we witness them, we suffer. And we think it's the object, in this case, the husband, that we are suffering, that is causing our suffering. So those are a lot of words. I hope I haven't made this complicated at all. Just
no, I see my attachment
to what you're thinking
to
and
what
believing.
I'm thinking. I get that part.
Yes. Okay.
I get that part.
And the thought you were thinking and believing is my husband is suffering. And then you went into the future and it's a nightmare.
Right.
So my husband is suffering, so turn it around, another turnaround, my husband is not suffering. Now see if you can just find a moment this morning in that situation. Look again. Can you see a moment when he was not suffering? Just one moment in time.
I can see a brief moment.
Yeah. Can you find another one?
I can't find a lot of moments where he wasn't suffering this morning. I could find one or two.
Not a lot, but
right.
You found one.
One or two,
Now you might go home and say, honey, this morning when we were together, were you suffering? And if he says yes, terribly, you can say, and was there a moment when you weren't? And he might amaze you, and maybe not. We don't ever know. But I just think it's so kind to consider them, their reality, when we're so busy believing for them, which affects our lives. So anyway, I think this is the oddest I've ever done the work with anyone. Because I have said more words than I can remember saying regarding one inquiry, but I so want mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters who are suffering from the kind of experience that you've been given to know that there is a way out, and the way out is in for some of us. And this is just something I stumbled onto that has served millions of people are finding their way through self-inquiry. And if it serves someone out there, I'm very grateful, because that gives us all a kinder world, and less suffering is a kinder world. That's a lot you just went through, Nancy, or it feels like a lot from here, and you're so courageous.
Thank you. I am getting the attachment to his suffering that I feel from it, and that I carry with me, and how if I can turn it around to, regardless of if he is suffering.
Exactly. If you can just turn it around to I'm suffering and take care of one family member, then the entire family benefits.
Okay. I can get where you're saying that I need to turn around the attaching to the image of his suffering and making it my suffering.
Yeah, and that's all that was going on when you were with him this morning.
Yes.
You know, we're so busy witnessing out of a past and future completely innocently, but we're experiencing all that. We don't know what's going on, and we really see them as what we're imaging.
Right.
And so we really don't even, it's like no two people have ever met. They are who we believe them to be, so we're not as connected as we have a right to be.
Yes.
And there's less joy as a result.
And I just want to say, as a bystander, you know, how courageous for both of you to do this in this way. And, you know, one of the things that came up for me as you guys were talking about how often we language things with, when you had the moment when you talked about, well, I have to do this versus I choose to do this. You know, because I know you so well, and I know what a privilege you consider it to be to have the husband that you have and the child that you have, and that you are a person who is about giving. You know, and it was one of those moments for me where how often in a day do we think, oh, I have to do this,
right,
when it's what we've chosen
yeah.
to do.
And even if we say we chose to do it, some of us don't believe that. It just, we're trying to feel better.
Yeah.
But when we look at, I am free to leave these two people. And many people do under the circumstances that you are living, Nancy.
Yes.
A lot of them do. They can't take it.
Right.
And they hate themselves and they feel guilty the rest of their lives. And probably we all want to just run at some time in our life. But you hang in, and you don't have to. You are free. So when I say I choose to, you know, language is odd, but for some of us to go a step further and say, I'm free to, I don't have to do this, you know, as inner talk. And if someone says, Nancy, how do you do this? You say, well, I'm free. I don't have to do it.
I choose
you know,
to.
I feel right when I do, and that's what I'm in touch with, and that's everything. Because out of that, I can serve at the highest level. I'm free.
And you do. You serve at the highest level.
You don't walk.
And that's an amazing thing to acknowledge in yourself, that is what you are doing. You are being of the highest service.
And I don't, Katie, I don't
but when
remind
you're-
myself of that I don't get in touch with that choosing on a continual basis. And that's what I need to be in touch with, not the I have to. Is that kind of where we're getting at here? It's the...
If it's true, you're really choosing to, but it could be that there's a part of all of us that don't really believe that until we really get, we're free. We don't have to. That's just true.
We don't have to.
No.
But we can choose to.
Absolutely. But when we know we're free, when we really get that, it's no longer a burden to do what we're doing.
So it's no longer a burden to care for your child with autism because you're free.
It's a delight. It's not just, you know, I can do it and we're working through it. It's just like, this is fun. This is a privilege.
Privilege I'll go with. The fun I'm not, well, sometimes.
Well, you know, I don't call it the work for nothing.
Right.
But rather
the privilege part I can get.
Separated from my children and my husband and the world, I just couldn't. It's as though I couldn't bear it any longer, and something just snapped, and it was that moment on the floor where I just noticed the peace, and then the cause of suffering is a state of mind that I'm assuming to be true.
This is all sinking in, and I'm hoping it's sinking in for for our viewers today, because I think that a lot of them can relate to this in terms of having it. You know, we could have chosen the situation of my son as opposed to my husband, but I do
But
have this.
isn't it the same?
It's
one has
very
cancer,
similar.
one has autism, and you're
course.
worried about both.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. But you know, if they're suffering, that's enough suffering in the world. You take care of yours.
I actually don't believe my son's suffering at all.
Well, your husband.
Yeah.
And
Even though he has
I'm with you on the
autism, that's
son.
my, you know.
It's like we're going to catch up with
Right.
him
That
sooner or
might
later.
that might
That's
have
what we're
been
doing.
probably another one to take. That would have been, because I can see where we put on our children with autism that they're suffering. Where is that true? Probably not in most of the cases, right? We're just putting our neurotypical selves are putting that on our atypical children. So anyway,
But just notice how often in the day you believe that.
Okay.
That he's suffering.
Right.
And
with
then
both of them.
you might ask him and don't expect an answer. And even when we get an answer, we still don't know if it's true or not. So we're really left with ourselves and to deal with our own heads. And when we're not suffering, we are connected to not only our family members, but to ourselves and the world around us.
And I think what you just said is part and parcel of this too, that once you look at one thought a different way, then it causes you to think about other thoughts and question, well, this other thought that I've held very close, maybe I should look at that. And it becomes, as you said, a practice and something that you can begin to do. Unfortunately, we're out of time and we're past time, but I have to say, for those of you who are interested, I definitely want to encourage you to go to thework.com, read Loving What Is. Katie had mentioned that there is a number on thework.com that you can call and do this process. Which is a huge gift to the world.
Yes, thank you, Katie, for bringing it out there and making it accessible. I think that's really a great thing that you do to make this accessible to all.
We've got a lot in common as far as service. And again, the work is free on thework.com. There's a place that says how to do the work, and it's all there, and also all over YouTube. And thank you for your service to the world.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we want to say, for people who want to delve in further too, you do workshops that sometimes they're multi-day, and for people who really say, I want to dive further into this, you have a 28-day program. We had so many questions that viewers wrote in that we didn't get to, but some of them people were asking, how can I get my child on the spectrum to do the work? You have a section in this book about getting children to do the work.
Yes, and also there's a book for young children that is Tiger, Tiger, Is It True? Yeah. I'm coming out with a new children's book and the children of all ages, of course, is Hooray, the Sky is Falling.
Okay, I think I need that one.
Okay.
You're a wonderful resource, and thank you so much for all the work you do and for being willing to be here with us. And please thank your staff, they've been amazing in arranging this work. They are amazing. And you are amazing.
Thank you, Katie. I appreciate you doing this with me, and I'm honored to do the process.
You're so welcome.
Thank you for you and for the work.
And Shannon, thank you also for being, both of you, such warm hosts and so valuable to all of us.
Well, I hope we get to meet sometime in person, but thank you for being with us, Katie.
So welcome. Thank you for your good work.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And we've gone way over time, but
I'm wondering if there's a way we might be able to address this at another time. Maybe we could send Katie some of the questions that came in, and she could answer them.
Absolutely,
so, because our viewers,
and I'm sure that we'll want to talk about this a little bit more next week and see where you are on some of these thoughts next week.
I think I'm not here next week, but
the week after.
Yeah.
We will discuss it further with Nancy and see
how tomorrow and we could talk
just
about it a little bit.
Looking at a thought in a different way, little tiny shifts that might be happening.
Okay.
But again, get the book. Loving what is.
It'll
All right, you
swing
guys, we're totally out of time. I will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow in the show, we have Caleb Kraft from Make Magazine. You know, Temple Grandin, while we were interviewing her, endorsed Make Magazine and said this should be in every school. So Caleb Kraft wrote a blog about that, and he's going to be with us tomorrow talking about why. I know why, but I know you guys want to know why. We're going to hear it directly from them. We also have Ilana Gershlovitz going to Skype with us directly from Africa to talk about the yellow canaries of the Besia. I hope I've gotten that name right. But this is an amazing story of families that are walking and doing whatever they can to get their children help. You want to talk about how we lack resources. There is a community in Africa that have taken it upon themselves and are walking to centers to get their children help. Alana's going to talk about how you can help with this community and make things change for them. So a pretty exciting show tomorrow. But we'll be back next week. And next week we have a special...
I'm not here next week.
That's okay, but we are going to have a special salute to our military families because it's Veterans Day. We'll be here on Wednesday to do that.
I think Amy might be filling in for me.
Oh, that would
for
be
just
very
a segment.
exciting. That would be
To
exciting.
talk about our Act Today for Military Families program.
Truly wonderful. But then Nancy will be back with us the week after. I believe that's the week that we have Vince Redmond on.
Yes.
So very exciting. But until then, give your kiddos a hug from me.
And give yourselves a hug from me.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.